Good morning and namaste to all of you. Let's start our class with some prayers. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhu Bhavaswaha, Tatsavitra Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Dhiyo Yo Naha Prachodayat. Asto Ma Satgamya, Tamso Ma Jyotirgamya, Mrityurma Amritam Gamya. Om Sahna Bhavatu, Sahna Bhunaktu, Saviryam Karvavahi, Tejasvi Navadhitamastu, Ma Vidvishavahi. Om Shanti 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 Om. Today is Wednesday, and Wednesday we normally pick up some general topic. And today's topic, I chose meditation, just a little bit more light on meditation, because we are trying to practice together also in a group every Thursday. And otherwise, I always encourage you to practice meditation every day. And often I hear this comment that I try hard in meditation. I do it 30 minutes in the morning, sometimes 30 minutes in the evening also. I really give my best, but I don't seem to be able to go deeper. What can I do? So this is like very often I hear it. If you are trying consistently to concentrate, because that's what you are doing. You're concentrating first. So you're trying your best. During those 30 minutes, your mind is going out and then you are bringing it back in. And you are very sincere about it. I would say you are doing very well. But if you want to dive deep, you have to give your best during the times that you are not meditating also. So that means it's not only those 30 minutes. It's the rest of the 23 and a half hours too in a day. So it's not only during meditation that we make a progress in training the mind, but also during the rest of the day. In simple words. Once we get beneath the surface of the mind, we begin to see that there is a very close connection between the kinds of distractions we have in meditation and the kinds of problems we face in our daily life. It is these problems that prevent us from diving into deeper levels of consciousness. And they are both internal as well as external. They arise in the mind and we encounter them there in meditation. But because they shape our actions, we also encounter them during the day in 101 disguises. There was an Indian philosopher, a yoga guru, a Maharishi, Indian nationalist. You might have heard his name, Shri Aurobindo. He was born in 1872. One of his famous saying is, all life is yoga. Every moment is an opportunity for training the mind. Because sometimes we think that we are doing yoga just half an hour or an hour. No, all life is yoga. And the explanation of this is simple. Every moment from the time we get up in the morning until we go to the bed, we have a choice to give our attention to ourselves or to give it to those around us. So in other words, are we living just for ourselves? And that is a selfish living. Or are we trying to live for others also? selfless living. If we indulge ourselves during the day, we should not be surprised to find strong distractions in meditation. On the other hand, if we reduce the number of things we do just to please ourselves, distractions will be fewer and concentration deeper. It's a very clear formula about this. I would go so far as to say that dwelling on oneself is the root cause of most personal problems. The more preoccupied we become with our private fears, resentments, memories, and cravings, the more power they have over our attention. Less self-centered thinking means fewer distractions, a clearer mind, and very deep meditation. No one begins to meditate without a mind full of distractions. That's why Lord Arjun said first, and then Lord Krishna replied to this question. Arjun's comment and question was, Chanchalam hi mana Krishan, Pramati balvad dridam. Tasyaham nigraham manne vayurev sudushkaram. So Arjun says the mind is restless. It's turbulent. It is powerful. It's violent. Trying to control the mind is like trying to tame the wind. And what did Lord Krishna say? He said, Asanshyam mahabaho mano dur nigraham chalam. Abhyasen tu kontye vairagyen cha grihate. The mind is without doubt unsteady, difficult to curb, but it can be controlled through abhyas and vairagya, through practice and this passion. And this selfless living is vairagya. Vairagya does not mean that we have to wear orange clothes. Vairagya does not mean we have to leave our homes, our responsibilities. Vairagya means wherever we get a chance, can we live for others or not? That's Vairagya. So when somebody complains to me about meditation being difficult, my only consolation is just wait. It's going to get a lot harder if you don't try to practice the right way. Gaining control over one's own mind is the most difficult task a human being can undertake. It requires a lot of hard work. When your meditation is progressing, if your mind goes into a negative mood about yourself, about your problems, about other people, about the state of the world also, you should be able to switch your attention away from the negative, focus it on the positive. Rishi Patanjali, he called this technique Pratipaksh Bhavana. Switching the mind from the negative to the positive. Then your behavior is always kind, your words are always helpful, and your life becomes a positive influence on all. The distractions in meditation are due to our sanskars, deep conditioned tendencies to particular ways of thinking and acting, usually negative or self-centered, which have been dug in the mind through many years of repeating the same thought over and over. It may not be many years, it could be many lives. Because these sanskaras, we travel with these sanskars, the tendencies. Most of us, for example, have an anger sanskar. Anger, it is an automatic response to want to lash out at others, or sometimes at ourselves also, when things don't go our way. That's anger. At critical moments like these, it can be most helpful to remember that the disturbance has little to do with, for example, whether someone took our parking place, or we had to wait in line at the grocery store. Beneath every separate incident of anger, resentment, hostility, and irritation lies a single reflex in the mind, which says, I do not like this. And that's why we hit back. Sometimes we hit back physically, sometimes we hit back verbally, sometimes, or most of the times, we hit back with our thoughts. And that is all different forms of anger. Another sanskar is greed. And this greed is not only for the money, it could be for material possessions, for pleasure, for power. Say another root sanskar in the deeper consciousness of us all human beings. It may show itself in different ways also. Just like anger, greed also shows up different ways. But the drive is the same. And what is that drive? We feel incomplete. That's why we try to manipulate things and people to get what we can to fill the vacuum inside us. That is greed. Greed sanskar. We think by having something, whether it's a position or whether it's a possession, we think we'll feel more completed. As meditation deepens, we begin to recognize these ways of thinking in ourselves. To oppose them, we have to learn not to act on them, not to do what our compulsions demand. And that is terribly difficult because we have been acting compulsively for so long. To stop there, it's difficult. Otherwise, a compulsion would not be a compulsion. So whatever romantic notions we may have about spiritual growth, it never really happens in a short time. Remember that. We can attend a seminar a week long or 2 weeks long on meditation. We are not going to become deep meditators. It's a long process. Because there is so much to transform. Naturally, there come times when the mind gets tired and complains. Because you don't see the change. You say, why not call it off for a while? This cannot be done. And most of the people, this is what happens. They start out, they don't see any change, they don't see any transformation, they just stop. And to start again, second time, it's harder than the first time. There is a continuous connection between meditation and daily living. That's why that great yogi said, all life is yoga. All life. The timeless values on which we are meditating begin to transform every word and action. And in turn, meditation improves when we try to show goodwill to everyone. When we learn how to work harmoniously, even with those whom we differ. That's where we find the delight. And that's where we see that our meditation practice deepens swiftly. Remember, the sanskars, the tendencies, are not soft shoulder. It is almost like a deep ditch. That's how the sanskars are, because we have gone through it many times. We have pressed that ditch deeper and deeper. And if we get stuck in one, for example, an addiction or a recurring personal problem or a compulsive relationship, we should count ourselves fortunate that we are recognizing it, and only we can get out of it. There's a little interesting quirk of human nature. Often the things we want most to correct in others are the things we do ourselves. The things we want most to correct in others. So that means whenever we are pointing a finger at somebody, if we look deeper inside, we do all that ourselves. The way we behave to others has to come back to us. If you want people to be kind, the very best way is to learn to respond to others' needs exactly as if they were our own. So if you want others to be polite to us, be polite to them first. If you want others to not to get angry at us, we should not get angry at somebody. If you want others to be honest with us, you try to be honest. Pay little attention to this. No one likes to be treated rudely, to be rushed, or belittled, or ignored. Nobody. We don't like it when we are treated that way. So we should not treat others that way. Everyone appreciates patience, kindness, forgiveness, and respect. If we cultivate these qualities, meditation becomes a second nature. As we practice this, we forget ourselves little by little. So that means we become less self-centered. Our problems, our little personal desires, our conveniences, our opinions, not only during the day, but in meditation too. Then when we sit down to meditation, there is no distraction, no difficulty. So the thread of meditation running through your day can be extended in the evening also. If you want to go forward even in your sleep, if you want to sleep like a yogi, do your evening meditation also. But start your evening meditation reasonably early. Okay, not right before sleeping, but little early, so that you have time for half an hour or so of spiritual reading before you go to sleep. If you want to be a serious meditator, choose your reading carefully. It should be positive. It should be strengthening. It should be inspiring. And it should be more than just good literature or philosophy. It should be a piece of scripture, Shastra, which you respond to deeply. Read a little, slowly and reflectively. Give those words a chance to sink deep into your consciousness. Then put the book aside. Turn out the light and fall asleep repeating your mantra. That's how during your sleep also you are meditating. Use those 7-8 hours the way yogis do. Do not waste those hours. It may take time, but gradually the sequence of meditation, spiritual reading, and falling asleep in the mantra will become such a smooth current that goes on flowing in consciousness even while you sleep. Because you have put in something which is so powerful, something which is so positive, something which has a very high level of vibration. And it's working inside you all night. See, just like at night, we boil milk, let it cool, put a little starter yogurt in there, set it aside. In the morning, we have a bowl full of yogurt. The same thing we do with our mind, with our consciousness. So we got to do these steps sequentially, sincerely, with full faith. All this can be deeply inspiring, even the kind of night we have. So this is our own choice. Do we want to have a disturbed night? Do we want to look at our email messages or Facebook posts or nightly news and then turn off the light and go to sleep? Then that's what's taking roots in our deeper mind. Or do we want to put something positive there? Choice is ours. We have that freedom. If you have been kind throughout the day, turning your back when necessary on personal likes and dislikes, and then given your best in meditation and fallen asleep in mantra, you will go forward even while you sleep. Remember that. Even in sleep, we can be shaping our lives. So in this, with meditation and daily living, supporting each other, our spiritual growth will be swift and sure. One of our human absurdities is the fact that we are constantly thinking. And what are we thinking? We are thinking either about the future or the past. That's another reason we cannot go deeper in our meditation. Those who are young think of the future because they have got more of it. Those who are older think more about the past because for them there's more of that. But in order to experience life, we have to live in each moment. Life has not been happening in the past. What do we call past? A memory. And life is not going to happen in future. That is planning. So the only time we can live is now. So if we learn to live in the now, in the present moment, the meditation becomes very easy for us. So we have to learn actually to experience living in the present. We have to remind ourselves again and again. Am I living in the present? Or is my mind just keep on going into the past or the future? When we have learned that, we will have eliminated a great many of our distractions. Because distractions are always in the past or in the future. We are all quite able and efficient in looking after our bodies. We wash our body. We exercise our body. We give a rest to our body. Are we doing that with our mind or not? If you want to make our meditation deeper, to pay attention to it. Because all these three things have to be done for the mind. Exactly the same way. In fact, I would say that it's more important because mind is the master and the body is the servant. When we are looking at the relationship between the body and the mind. Best servant in perfect condition, young, strong, and vigorous, having a weak master who does not know what to do, will not be able to work satisfactorily. The master has to direct the servant. Even when the servant is not so strong and vigorous, if the master is efficient and wise, the household will still be in order. This mind and body are our household. If this inner hold is not in order, no outer household can be in order. The master, the one in charge, has to be in the best possible condition. And that's why we must meditate. Nothing in the whole universe is comparable to the mind or can take its place. Yet we all take our minds for granted, which is another absurdity. No one takes the body for granted. We all know when the body gets sick, we quickly run to the doctor. When the body gets hungry, we quickly feed it. When the body gets tired, we quickly rest it. What about the mind? Only the meditator or a yogi looks after the mind. Looking after the mind is essential if life is to grow in a depth and vision. Remember that. Otherwise, life stays two-dimensional. And most lives are lived in the realities of yesterday and tomorrow, good and bad. I like it and I don't like it. That is two-dimensional. I will have it and I won't have it. This is mine and this is yours. Most of the people live a life like that. Only when the mind is trained, we can see the other dimensions also. So the first thing we need to do with the mind is wash it. Wash it. Clean it up. Not only once or twice a day. Body can be washed once or twice a day. But mind has to be cleansed in all waking moments. Remember that. And in order to do that, we have to learn how to do it. Because with the body, it's simple. Wash it with water. Use the soap. Scrub it. Because we learned it ever since we were small. But mind can only be cleansed by the mind. Okay, body can be cleansed with the water and soap, but the mind has to be cleansed with the mind. What the mind has put in there, the only mind can take it out. That's why Rishi Patanjali, he gave us those yam and the niyams. If we have put in the violent sanskars, the hinsa in our mind, only the mind is the one which can become non-violent. 1 second of concentration in meditation is 1 second of purification. Because luckily the mind can only do one thing at a time. Although we can have 3,000 mind moments in the blink of an eyelid, we don't have them all at once. Luckily, mind moments follow each other in quick succession, but only one at a time. So our mind, that unique tool in all the universe, is the only one we have. If we owned a fine tool, like outside, if we have a fine tool, like a computer, iPad, phone, what do? We keep it safe. We don't drop it. We don't let the water spill on it. Here we have this marvelous tool with which everything can be accomplished. We can attain moksha with this tool. We can have enlightenment with it. We can have a very positive and blissful life with it. And it's up to us to learn to look after it. It won't function properly otherwise. And during meditation, we learn to drop from the mind what we don't want to keep. That's why meditation is a cleansing technique. All those flaws can be dropped out. We learn how to keep only the meditation subject in it. As we become more and more skilled at it, we start to use the same faculty in our daily lives to help us drop those thoughts that are unwholesome. In this way, our meditation practice assists us in daily living, and our attention to wholesome thoughts in everyday life helps our meditation practice. So that's why a yogic way of living helps the meditation practice, and meditation practice helps our daily life. The person who becomes master of his or her own thoughts and learns to think what he wants to think is called a yogi, an enlightened one. And don't be surprised if this letting go of thoughts does not work all the times. Surely it will function some of the times. Even during that time, you will feel certain release. But once we have become the master of our mind, instead of the mind became the master of us, we will see that we have really deepened our meditation. Another thing I told you, that for the body, we give exercise to our body. So that is a second step. We need to exercise the mind also. Because an untrained mind is like a wavering, fluctuating mass that runs from one subject to the next and finds it very difficult to stay in one spot. You have probably had the experience when reading a book of coming to the end of a page and realizing you don't even know what you just read. The whole page, nothing absorbed. Mind has to be pushed to stay in one spot. That's exercising the mind. Just like people do the push-ups, weightlifting, they develop the muscles. We need to develop the muscles in our mind also. Strength can only come from exercising the mind. That means to do exactly what wants it to do. To stand still when one wants it to stand still. If you tell mind to stay there on that particular light, on that particular vibration, mind should stay there. That's exercising the mind. And this also creates a power in the mind. And this is connected with Vairagya, exercising the mind. This is called renunciation. This is called letting go, whatever word you want to use. All of us have sizable egos, the me and the mine. It's like some people call it a me and mine syndrome. And it's almost like a you stay out attitude. These days, especially even the little kids, they talk about, give me some space. That's an ego. And that's what creates all the world's problems. And we can only be sure that the ego is affirmed when we are thinking, talking, reading, seeing a movie, or using the mind in the interests of the ego. The great renunciation that arises in meditation is to drop all thoughts. When there's nobody thinking, there's no ego confirmation. To start with, dropping thoughts will only be possible momentarily, but it is a step in the right direction. That's how we exercise our mind. The spiritual path is all about letting go. Remember that. Letting go, that is Vairagya. It's a path of renunciation, letting go constantly, dropping all we have built up around ourselves. This includes possessions, conditioned habits, ideas, beliefs, thinking patterns. It is difficult to stop thinking in meditation because that would be renunciation, and it's a moment when the ego does not have any sport. That's why meditation is hard without Vairagya. To be able to keep the mind in one spot creates mind muscles, gives the mind strength and power. That's why having a faith in a God, having a faith in a Guru, it becomes easier. The body's strength makes it possible to accomplish what we set out to do with the body. The mind's strength makes it possible to do the same with the mind. Remember that. A strong mind does not suffer from boredom, does not get frustrated, does not go into depression or even unhappiness. So if somebody says, I'm unhappy, that means a weak mind. If somebody says, I'm bored, that's a weak mind. Those are the symptoms of a weak mind, and a yogi or a yoga abhyasi or a meditator does not want to have a weak mind. It has learned to drop what it doesn't want. That's a yogi's mind. Because meditation practice has given us necessary muscles for the mind. And the third thing I told you we need to do for the mind is needs rest also. Rest. We have been thinking ever since we were very small. And even the innumerable lifetimes, we've been thinking with this mind. All day we think, all night we dream. There isn't a moment's rest. We may go on vacation, but what goes on vacation? The body. Body can go to the beach. Body can go into the mountains. Body can be in the cruise. But what about the mind? The mind is not getting a vacation. It just thinks about something else. Just remember, if we did not give our body a rest, or even at night, it's not resting, it will not function properly. So our mind needs a rest too. Sometimes we think we are sleeping and we are giving a rest to our mind. No. During a dream part of our sleeping, it's not getting any rest. Only time the mind can have a real rest is when it stops thinking and starts only experiencing. One of the similes used for the mind is a blank screen on which a continuous film is shown without intermission. Because the film, the thoughts is continuous, one forgets that there has to be a screen behind on which to project it. If we stop that film for a moment in meditation, we can experience the basic purity of us. This is a moment of bliss, a moment that brings the kind of happiness not available anywhere else, or even through anything else. A happiness that is independent of outer conditions. It's not unconditioned by conditions, only by concentrations. It is not dependent upon good food or climate or entertainment or the right relationships or some kind of a possession or people, because all of that is unreliable and cannot be depended upon because they are always changing. Today, some people can worship you. Tomorrow, the same people can abuse you. So concentration is reliable. Meditation is reliable if we keep on practicing it. And that's what's abhyasa. That's why Lord Krishna, he used those two words. Rishi Patanjali used those two words. And we got to understand it properly. Abhyasa and vairagya. What happens is a meditator has a feeling of contentment, santosh. The happiness, the contentment created at the time of meditation carries through our daily living. Because the mind knows that nothing has to be taken so seriously that it cannot go home again and find peace and quiet. Mind knows that where the contentment is, where the happiness is, the source of the real happiness, and that mind knows where to get it. Only a meditator's mind knows. So cleaning the mind, exercising the mind, and giving a rest to the mind is utmost important for a yogi. Om Purnamada Purnam Idam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Om. Thank you very much.